not very often that we get an opportunity to have 3 amazing instruments like this. Because when we do get them, they don't stick around for very long. We have a 1951 Fender Telecaster that's been refinished and aged. We have a 1953 Fender Esquire that we've modified and put a Gibson PAF humbucker in the neck position. And then we have a completely straight 1953 Fender Telecaster. Figured, why don't we slow down and tell the story of all 3 of these guitars at the same time? In the early 50s, there was this race between Fender and Gibson and other manufacturers to find a solution for a solid body guitar. Bands were getting louder, they had terrible feedback problems. Innovations at the time wouldn't allow a guitar player to really be at the forefront of the band. It was still very much so a rhythm instrument, so people were racing to solve this issue, and really the Telecaster was the first commercially viable way to solve it. The 51 Telecaster that we have that has been refinished, that would be the earliest iteration of a Telecaster. The Broadcaster, which was what the Telecaster was, right? The Broadcaster, then Gretsch sued Fender for the name. Gretsch had a drum kit called the Broadcaster. So Leo, in his infinite wisdom, cut Broadcaster off of the logo, and then it became the Fender Nocaster, right? Because it just said Fender on the headstock. And then someone brilliantly was like, well, what do the kids like these days? Television. Great, let's call it the Telecaster. It's one of the most iconic, long-standing body shapes of any electric guitar, right? You can still buy something that is representative of that original idea. The 1953 Fender Telecaster is in 100% original condition, so much to the fact that the logo freaked me out at first because it's so pristine, and I've never seen a Fender logo in that great of condition. It includes the original poodle case and has some of the original case candy, including some photos of the original owner playing the guitar. It is wired in the original Tele wiring, where the bridge pickup is the first position, the neck pickup is the second position, and the third position is a very dark neck pickup. 53 Esquire was a little bit more of a pet project. It was originally an Esquire. You can see original ESQ tooling underneath there to let us know that that's what that guitar was. And it had been routed for a humbucker in the neck. So we found a PAF and we put a humbucker in the neck. The bridge pickup in this one is actually from a Champion lap steel. The lap steel pickup and the Telecaster bridge pickup are electronically identical, which is what inspired Leo to make the Telecaster bridge pickup in the first place. It's really interesting pairing with that humbucker in the neck. We raised it to make sure that the output was very similar, and they're in a great spot. They feel like a perfect match together. Telecaster is incredibly versatile, and we wanted to allow a multitude of different people to play these instruments in different styles so you could get a feel for what all it's capable of and how all three of these are very different, right? It's not often, again, that we get an opportunity to take this much time to focus on the similarities and differences of these instruments. I think it's one of the most exciting things that I've been able to do here. As someone who feels responsible for continuous education about these instruments, about the history of these instruments, to have the opportunity to look this closely and be this focused on the similarities and the differences between these three instruments is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.